Alright guys, as much as you probably think that you already hate journalists and games journalists and the access media as much as you possibly can, trust me, you cannot hate these people enough. So, this article was sent to me by a supporter of the channel, and I could not believe that I had never seen this before. And it's funny because I haven't seen anybody else even like making YouTube content or articles about this. Believe me, I searched and I haven't found any like that notable ones that have popped up. This is from Time Magazine. They released on December 5th, a full week before the Games Awards actually gave out their awards, the top 10 best video games of 2024. And you will not believe this list when we get into it. So I wrote this up over on my website. It'll also be available over on Fandom Pulse at some point tomorrow. Not sure when John Trent's going to make it go live, but it's there for you to read as well. So it says, Insane Time author names Dragon Age the Veilguard as the best game of 2024. Yes, I am not kidding. This is the game that they have said is the ultimate game you can play for 2024. All right. So my article here says the 2024 Game Awards have come and gone, but the backlash stemming from several controversial snubs is far from over. The wildly popular Black Myth Wukong won the Player's Voice Award, despite losing out on Game of the Year to Sony-exclusive Astrobot. Stellar Blade, another massive Sony exclusive, was left off of several categories entirely, including Game of the Year, and was eventually defeated by Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in the Best Score in Music category. As such, it has become exceedingly clear to the majority of gamers that the gap between actual gamers and those in games media has never been wider. And I think that's something that we can all agree with, that honestly, the people voting on these things, the people that are trying to encourage studios on what games to make and what to put in their games, don't have a clue when it comes to what we actually want from a video game these days. In a move that seemed like an obvious attempt to incite outrage, Time released their 10 best video games of 2024 list 1 week ahead of the Games Awards, with several extremely questionable selections making it onto the list. The most notable titles that were left off were Space Marine 2 and, again, Stellar Blade, two games that were both financially successful and very well received by audiences. So the entire list of games were ranked as follows. At the top, number 1, Dragon Age the Veilguard. Number 2, Astrobot, and that one I have no problem with. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that's fine. Silent Hill 2, okay, somewhere in the top 10, sure. Neva, which I believe is an indie game, which other than being on a few, like I said, the Game Awards and all that's on their website, I haven't really heard a whole lot about. This one at number 6 is shocking. Alan Wake 2, Night Springs and the Lake House. Now remember, Alan Wake 2 has yet to be profitable, and it's very controversial with the involvement of Sweet Baby Inc., and of course, focusing on the protagonist, who is, again, the race-swapped female rather than Alan Wake himself. And these are DLC for Alan Wake 2, guys. These aren't even the original game. They're talking about DLC, and yet they left Shadow of the Erdtree off this list, okay? At number 7, behind the Alan Wake 2 DLCs, is Black Myth Wukong, followed up at number 8 by Star Wars Outlaws. I am not even kidding. A game that has it even sold 2 million copies yet? I can't even remember at this point. Lego Horizon Adventures, and Helldivers 2 at number 10, okay? So it says it's almost impossible to discern what Time was thinking when making these selections. There were 2 Alan Wake DLCs that shared the number 6 spot, yet no inclusion of Shadow of the Erdtree, the DLC for 2022 Game of the Year winner Elden Ring. Alan Wake 2 is a title famously connected to DEI consulting firm Sweet Baby Inc., and as of right now has yet to make a profit. By comparison, Elden Ring is one of the most successful and heavily awarded games of all time. Star Wars Outlaws making the list at number 8 is even more laughable, given that this title has yet to sell 2 million copies and has been an absolute public relations nightmare for Ubisoft. Furthermore, dropping Helldivers 2 all the way down to number 10 behind Lego Horizon Adventures, a game that had an all-time peak on Steam of 602 players, is a blatant display of disrespect for the developers and player base. Most egregious, however, was their placement of Dragon Age the Veilguard at number 1. This title from BioWare, the latest entry in the Dragon Age franchise after a 10-year hiatus, has been mocked and ridiculed by players far and wide, and rightfully so, for its heavy-handed use of things such as pronouns, non-binary characters, top surgery scars, and incredibly amateur storytelling. Dragon Age the Veilguard failed so miserably at appealing to mass audiences that even the Game Awards only gave it 1 nomination in the accessibility category, which again, they didn't even win as far as I remember. Likely due to their contracting of known, quote, accessibility consultant and trans representation enthusiast Laura Kate Dale. This deranged individual here, if you do recall, we've talked about Laura quite a bit on the channel here. Regarding Dragon Age the Veilguard, Richard Newby, who wrote for Times, wrote, "First, hats off to what has to be the most advanced character creation system ever brought to video games. This is a character creator in this game where you cannot give a woman an actual bust, or anything bigger than, let's say, like a men's waistline, guys. This is pathetic that they call this the most advanced character creation system ever in video games. It's possible to spend hours just fine-tuning the look of your character, as everything from bone structure to tissue placement is considered from every angle. The character creator is also fully inclusive, not only in terms of race, but also gender in its inclusion of non-binary pronouns and flexibility with physical characteristics like hairstyles. Yes, because again, like I've talked about before, I have no problem with having different racial or ethnic hairstyles in games. Fine, whatever. But that should not be the one reason you play a game, and all we ever hear about is not enough black hairstyles or not enough gender options. It's like, guys, these are not what makes a video game great. Before the game even begins, there's an effort to make the Veilguard feel personal and truly put the gamer behind the character. Yawn. So you see that this tweet they put out there got absolutely destroyed. In fact, if you go to the tweet itself, it didn't even get that much attention. It's got like 500 likes and only 162 comments, but every one of them is absolutely destroying it, saying, damn, you need to fire your gaming journalist because Veilguard flopped harder than Black Adam and had just as much marketing, and you guys ranked it #1. And it just gets worse and worse the further you go down. Like, nobody was happy about this choice over at time. Sadly, this is nothing new, as we've seen many access media outlets praise this game for pushing a far-left LGBT agenda, and of course, Inverse recently put out this article calling Corinne Bush, the game director of Dragon Age Veilguard, the ruler of RPGs and conqueror of haters. Now, this is a very long article. We're not going to go through the whole thing, guys. There's just really no point. But essentially, I pulled out a little snippet that I think very well defines what Corinne Bush was trying to do with this game. Corinne admitted in this interview that his purpose wasn't to faithfully follow the established franchise and give longtime fans what they wanted, but rather to use it as a tool to force his own personal beliefs into the series by, quote, reinventing it. And Corinne said in this interview, we have an incredibly diverse player base, and what I mean by that is their motivations and expectations. This becomes the biggest opportunity to continue that tradition of reinvention. The problem is people didn't want them to reinvent anything. They wanted a good game that followed, again, the traditions of the Dragon Age series itself, something that would actually resemble the previous titles that we've played and haven't had a new one for like 10 years now, guys. Like, come on, give us something that we want. But this is a bad sign for BioWare, because now we're seeing reports that they have a longtime writer who has left following the flop of Dragon Age Veilguard. And so this person right here, let me see, Sylvia Fekatucky. Wow, so I'm not even going to try to pronounce that one. A senior writer with BioWare for 15 years has announced her departure. And again, she said, hi, everyone. Sorry I've been quiet on here. I was busy with the big decision, namely deciding to leave BioWare. I'll really, really miss working with everyone there, but after 15 years, it just feels like time for a good time for a break. And of course, I don't think that there's an update on this, but she is not elaborating as to the exact reason for leaving, unfortunately. But it gets better, because now we are seeing, this is, again, one of these based developers, based producers coming out and saying, this is why the video game industry is in serious trouble, and here's what we need to do to fix it, okay? Over here on Fandom Pulse, we have this Gears of War executive producer explaining why AAA games are in trouble in wake of the Dragon Age Veilguard disaster. Says Laura Fryer, the executive producer on Gears of War, as well as the VP and general manager for the Lord of the Rings War in the North and Guardians of Middle-earth, recently explained why AAA games and the studios that make them are in trouble. In a recent upload to her YouTube channel titled Games Industry Bubble, Fryer declared that when people ask me why AAA games are in trouble, this is it. Because they're not reflecting on what they could do better. Instead, they're attacking the people that they want to sell their games to. Hey, David Jaffe, listen up, buddy. It is not a winning strategy. She continued, it reminds me of Plato's allegory of the cave. It's where people only see what is on the wall in front of them. They don't see that there is a fire behind them and puppets that are creating the images that they see on the wall. What they're seeing isn't real. And if they would turn around and walk into the light, they would know the truth. They would be able to change. It's hard, but they have made the cave. They've made the fake reality they can turn around at any time. And I hope for one day, hope they do, because I really want more great games. This sounds like how all these guys left Twitter and ran over to Blue Sky, and they're all just like retweeting each other or reskeeting each other, or however they call it, over at Blue Sky. Not even kidding, I think that's what they call it. And they're not even existing anymore in the same social media bubble as the rest of us. So they're truly in their own echo chamber, not understanding why they cannot relate to what gamers and customers are actually asking for, okay? She explained that the playbook was the same: cultivate a relationship with the most popular streamers and YouTube personalities that love your game and pull them into the bubble. However, she noted this stopped working because the bubble prevented real feedback from penetrating it. When you're in a bubble or an echo chamber where no real feedback gets through, it's easy to make bad choices. It's easy to believe the friendly journalists when they tell you what a genius you are and how great your game is. You stop seeing what the gamers are actually playing, you stop understanding what they want, you stop listening because all you hear is how awesome you are. Then, of course, the best part, the icing on the cake, is that she used Dragon Age Veilguard as an example, saying it took over 6 years to make that game, and that is very expensive even before you start talking about the marketing. This means you're going to have to sell a lot of copies, and that means you're going to appeal to as many people as possible. There's no question that some people like the game, and that's great, but it's looking like it won't be enough. And I have concerns that this will lead to more layoffs. Also, as a gamer, I have no problem with game developers taking risks with their content. Who doesn't love innovation? But that doesn't mean I'll buy your game. There's many games I like, and many that I don't. And this is the real kicker, that these developers, or at least a lot of these people in the higher up levels of these studios, like, for example, over at Ubisoft with Yves Guillemot, who he doesn't understand, no customer, no gamer owes him their money. You have to give these customers, these gamers, what they actually want, and if you don't, bye-bye. There's other games, other places to go spend our money. She says, and that's the beauty and challenge of working in the games industry. Sometimes you'll make something that you think is good and people don't love it. I was proud of every single game I shipped, but not all of them had commercial success, and it was frustrating. But I didn't blame the gamers for that. Instead, I tried to look back. I tried to self-reflect. What did we do well in this game? What could we have done better? Why didn't this work out? And as the leader of a studio or a game, I always looked at myself first. She continued, gaming's entertainment. People aren't forced to buy your message or your game. Holding back user reviews for a few days only buys you a few days. Eventually, the truth comes out. Eventually, people notice that you aren't delivering fun games, and they stop giving you money. And I think that pretty well sums it up. Like, that is a perfect ending point for this video, because this is what these people need to realize. It's not about hate. It's not about bigotry. It's not about racism. It's not about sexism or transphobia or whatever other word they want to use. It is about, first and foremost, making a good game with a good story and appealing to a wide audience. And if you can't do that first and foremost, none of the virtue signaling or any of the crap that you try to cram into your game to give it, again, layers and shields of protection against the bigots and the transphobes or whatnot is going to save your game, your studio, your company. So these people, these developers, need to start paying attention and go, you know what, it's time to get outside of my own little bubble and reach out and go, okay, what are gamers actually playing? In fact, we saw somebody at Ubisoft saying that they're trying to figure out what gamers are into. Guys, it's not that hard. The formula's there. It's been done time and time again. Just do that. Sure, innovate, create something different, tweak it a little, change it, make it unique, but give the customers what they want. I'm going to leave it right there, guys. Let me know what you think about all this down below. I will catch you guys on the next one. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.